In the past lessons, you have heard expressions like spirit of fear, spirit of control, and you might ask the question, how do you know it's not normal fear, it's not normal control, and it's actually a spirit or a demon? Well, this question fascinates all of us. And to be very honest to you, there were moments that we thought this is demonic, and it wasn't. And there are moments that we think, well, this is just psychological fear, this is psychological control, it's not that deep, and that it was demonic. To give you a kind of rule, it's not a rule, but a kind of idea, when a person experiences an overdoses of fear, it attracts the spirit of fear. When a person experiences overdoses of control, it can attract the spirit of control. But the difference between the one and the other is not always clear, because the spirit of fear causes fear, just as normal fear, and the spirit of control keeps a person under control, just like a controlling mother. So there's a kind of gradient, and I would say when there is an overdoses of a certain emotion, an overdoses of something in a situation, it can attract demons, and we'll talk about that even more. So just trying to explain that. And sometimes we do not know, at least I do not know. I have some colleagues that are really visionary and they actually see demons. I don't have that gift up to now, so I don't see it. I have to go by what I think. I will give you an example about something that ended really well. During one of my visits in Uganda, a girl was brought into our seminar. In fact, it was the last minutes of that day. They brought in a screaming girl. She was pretty tall. Later, I found out she was only 13 years old, but she was pretty tall. They brought her in and she screamed and disturbed us. But as we're about to finish the day, we finished the day. And the people who brought her wanted me to minister to her. I said, well, I am not going to do that right now. I need some more information and I want to take time to minister to her, but because obviously she was out of her mind. And so they told me the girl actually has a father, and the father is a born-again believer. So I said, okay, let the father come tomorrow at 10 with his daughter, and we can take time to minister to her. So the next morning, the father came with the daughter. The daughter walked behind him, and the way she walked, she looked like a zombie. The way she looked, it was like a zombie. And the girl couldn't talk. She could scream, but she could not talk. And so the father told me that he had tied up his daughter for half a year, for 6 months, with hand and feet on the iron frame of a bed, because he would ruin the whole house. So in the morning they would feed her, bring her to the latrine, and then tie her up, because nothing was sacred. She would destroy everything. In the evening they would do it again, bind her loose, put her on a toilet, give her food, and then tie her up again. Suddenly you're back in medieval times, where they had no psychopharmaca to help someone who has emotional disturbances, and just tie people up. Just in the days of Jesus, when Jesus met the man who had a legion of demons, it says that many times he was handcuffed and foot cuffed to stop him from beating and attacking people. But he was so strong that he destroyed the handcuffs and foot cuffs. So we're in a similar situation. A girl who is wild and is tied up. And so I asked him, like, this is for half a year, so what is the history? And he said, well, when she was born, I was not a Christian. So I was married to her mother, and with her mother, I had 2 daughters. For me, it was very important to have sons. And as my wife didn't give me sons, but just 2 daughters, I decided to take a second wife and dump my first wife. So I just told her, you leave, you go back to your mother, and sorry, I'm done with you. I want a woman that gives me sons. So we had sent her away, and the oldest daughter might have had the age of around 6 when I sent them away. After that, he started visiting church and was born again. But you know, there's a new marriage, new wife, children are born there, so he was mainly occupied with his new family while being a Christian and didn't think so much about his first marriage and his 2 daughters. Until one day, half a year ago, he heard that his first wife had suddenly died. She got sick in the morning, and by the evening she died. And then he realized, well, I have 2 daughters then. And they have no help. Grandmother also died, so they have no one to care for them. They are my daughters, and surely it's my Christian obligation, and my obligation as a father, to bring them home. So he went there, took his 2 daughters home, finding out that the oldest one had simply lost her mind, was wild, was crazy, and so he had to tie her up. And that's the story. The girl couldn't talk. She just sat in front of me like a kind of zombie. And so I couldn't ask her any questions, and I had to go by the information of the father. And so I used my imagination a bit. And so I thought, okay, so what she experienced was extreme rejection of her father. Her father didn't want girls, and because he was born and her sister, he sent her mother away. Rejection, probably the spirit of rejection. Then she must have witnessed the fights between her father and mother. Of course, there was a lot of disagreement before he sent the mother away. So she must have witnessed the discord, the disharmony, anger on both sides. So on her side, there must have been a lot of fear, seeing that her parents were fighting, yelling at each other, maybe even beating. So there could have been a spirit of fear. Then, of course, on her side must have been a lot of anger. Why is our father dumping us without any support, without paying school fees, nothing, just dumping us as if we don't exist? There must have been anger, rebellion, feelings of rebellion towards her father. So I guess there might also be a spirit of rebellion. Then, you know, she lived with her mother, far away from her father. And then suddenly one morning, the mother has fever, and a few hours later, she's dead. Just imagine a girl of 13 facing such a situation, in which a mother who is healthy the day before has a fever, and within a few hours, she's gone. And you have to bury her. And no preparation, no emotional preparation for that. So this is like a state of panic, total chaos, fear, insecurity. So I guess even there, insecurity, even a spirit of insecurity, a spirit of trauma might have entered her. And as she couldn't speak, I just took her hand and started naming the spirits that I just mentioned: fear, rebellion, rejection, another spirit of fear and trauma. And so I cast out those spirits. I spoke, leave, in the name of Jesus, not seeing any emotion, not seeing any manifestation. So it was like, okay, probably it is this. I wanted to know if that had any effect. As she didn't give any signal, did it have any effect? So I asked her to stand up, and I pulled her face close to mine, and I started whispering in her ear in tongues, softly. Mostly when a person has demons, that person tries to escape, don't want to hear the speaking of tongues. You know, when you speak in tongues, it's the Holy Spirit in you that uses your voice to speak to the Father. Demons don't like that at all. So when I pushed her ear towards my mouth and started speaking in tongues, I was expecting her, maybe she's going to resist and trying to get away from my voice. But she didn't. She stayed there very quiet. And after 5 minutes, I stopped speaking in tongues. And immediately, she pushed her ear voluntarily to my mouth, signaling, please don't stop, don't stop. So for another 5 minutes, I spoke in tongues in her ear, and she just stood there, still like a zombie, but she wanted to hear speaking in tongues. Then I sent them away, and I said, okay, I want you to come back tomorrow, and we're going to see what happened. So the next day they came at 10 o'clock. The father came in first. The daughter was following. And so I asked the father, like, any change? And he was quite enthusiastic. He said, she started speaking and I didn't need to tie her up. See, all those wild manifestations have completely gone. And I didn't have to tie her up. She ate her own food and she started speaking. Well, that's a big improvement. So again, she sat in front of me and I asked her, what's going on in your little mind? And she said to me, I see demons and I have terrible dreams and visions. And I said, okay, what kind of dreams and visions? And she said, well, dreams that men are following me and wanting to hurt me. And so I asked her, did that really happen? And she said, yes. I said, who followed you? Who tried to grab you? And she gave me a name. And so I said to the father, you go to that guy, try to find him and warn him if he ever comes near your daughter, you're going to kill him. And you know, then God started giving some revelation. And I asked her, although she was only 13, but pretty tall, I said, did ever a man have sex with you? And she said, no. But I felt. I said, okay, let's be more precise. Ever a man had his hands under your clothes? And she said, yes. So I asked her, who was it? And she gave us a name. And I told the father, go and find that person and warn him if he ever comes close to your daughter again. And so I asked her if she was willing to forgive the person that had followed her, trying to rape her, although it was unsuccessful. If she was willing to forgive the person that touched her under the clothes, and she forgave those people. And then I cast out the 2 unclean spirits that had infected her. It's quite obvious the man that touched her under the clothes. I mean, he physically touched her. So the unclean spirits, the spirits of lust from that man, surely infected her. But in the other case, where a man pursued her and tried to follow her, tried to grab her, a lot of fear, but this man also projected his unclean spirits on her. Although he couldn't touch her, he was, acting from that spirit of lust, that spirit, unclean spirit, following her. And if he had the chance, he would have raped her. So even that spirit had affected her. So I cast out those spirits, also the spirit of fear from the man that followed her. And I let them go. The next day, the father came to thank me. His daughter went back to school and is now a worship leader in that church. She was 100% healed. I couldn't see those spirits, I just guessed. I believe they must have been there, because if you're exposed to such having emotions like being thrown out by your father, there must be a spirit of rejection. If you have those emotions of seeing your parents fight, there must be a spirit of fear. So I acted upon what I guessed, but it was right. Okay,